channel. My name's Erin if you're new here. For today's video, I wanted to do more of a sit-down chat type thing. Today I wanted to talk about how I got into my fitness journey, why I started working out, and why I decided to compete. But before we get into that, let's do a quick little prep update. So this week, my coach and I decided that we're doing a pretty significant food drop, and we're also adding in a significant amount of cardio. It's definitely getting more difficult, but physically I feel pretty good, still feel really strong. It's getting more difficult, but I'm not dying yet. Okay, so let's get into the video. Now, before I get further into this video, I do talk about my history with an eating disorder and unhealthy eating habits, so if you feel like that's something that's going to trigger you, I would recommend maybe watching a different one of my videos or maybe just skipping this video entirely. So going way back, I grew up dancing in ballet. I started at the ripe age of 3 years old. And from a very young age, I had self-image and body issues. I remember just being 8 years old and worrying about food and my weight and just my appearance in general. I have very specific memories starting at a very young age of kind of unhealthy things that would go on in the ballet world. I had teachers that would tell me stuff like, I can see your lunch through your leotard, or I remember I kept this little journal for dance and I would write down everybody's name in my class, thinnest to heaviest set, and kind of rank where I was on that list and try to be the smallest. And I was only about 8 years old when I was doing stuff like that. I can't really remember a time when I wasn't concerned with my body image or food. So this all started for me at a very, very young age. So jumping forward, when I turned 14, ballet started getting very serious for me, and it was something that I kind of knew that I wanted to do as a profession and something I really wanted to pursue. And when you're 14, there's not only pressure from society to look a certain way from puberty and just being a teenager. I was also getting the pressure of looking the ballerina type. And if you've danced before, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, or maybe have felt that same pressure. So I would say when I turned 14, that's kind of when I first started dieting, because that's when I felt like I first had, some sort of control over what I was doing. The first diet that I seriously got into was cutting calories and just counting my calories. And I remember I went to Google to try to figure out how many calories I should be eating. And I don't know where I got this number, but when I Googled how many calories I needed to be eating to lose weight, the number 1,200 popped up for some reason. I don't know where I got that because that was not enough, but that's the number that I got from Google. So I started at 1,200 and that's what I was eating, and it became progressively more restrictive and I would eat less and less calories, thinking that that would be what would help me lose weight. That number just got lower and lower until it became obsessive and concerning. And of course I was really hungry, so on the weekends I would binge. That was just kind of the time when I would get whatever food I wanted and just eat as much as I possibly could. And I would start not only binging on foods that I enjoyed, but also foods that were just calorically dense until I felt physically sick. I didn't want to be eating anymore. I just couldn't stop. At this point in my life, I also started doing YouTube workouts online, like how to burn X amount of calories in 10 minutes, or burn calories fast with this workout, stuff like that. Or I would go on runs and just try to burn calories that way. Eventually, I ended up getting a membership at Planet Fitness, and I would just go with my ex-boyfriend and his friends when they would go. I remember being terrified of the weights, so I would spend ridiculous amounts of time doing cardio. And when I would do the machines, I would only do the leg machines or the ab machines, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So I remember I would go around to each leg or ab machine and just do like one set of 20 and try to get all of the machines and that were for legs or for abs. I wish I had pictures during this time, because this is when I feel like the start of my journey first was, and those would be really good progress pictures, but I just didn't take any because I hated the way I looked so much. I obviously wasn't seeing results doing any of this, so I decided to do more research on how I could lose weight. And I started thinking, okay, what foods can I eliminate to make it so that I lose weight? And the diet that I came upon was being vegan. Now let me preface this. I know that being vegan can be healthy, and by all means I think that there are people who do it for the right reasons and do it in a healthy way and make sure they have a balanced diet, but that was just not what I was doing. I was not doing vegan healthily by any means, and I'll talk about that more. So I stumbled upon this woman's YouTube page, and she had this diet that she promoted, and I won't say her name, but you will probably be able to figure it out by the time I'm done explaining it. She had this diet program called the High Carb, Low Fat Vegan Diet, and she pushed eating massive amounts of fruit, essentially only carbs, no fat, and essentially no protein either. And she looked kind of like what I wanted to look like at that time, so I thought if I followed her diet, that's what I was going to look like, and that's the results that I was going to get. At that time, I was very naive and just didn't know any better than to do what this lady was telling me to do. So now not only was I restricting calories, but I was restricting the food groups that I could have. So not only did I take away meat, dairy, eggs, all of that, I also took out protein and fats, and essentially all I was eating was high carbs. And the whole food restricting thing actually got worse the longer that I was vegan. I decided to try the raw vegan diet, which, if you're unfamiliar, is essentially you eliminate all foods that are cooked and basically only eat fruits and vegetables. With this diet and being vegan, I did notice a lot of weight loss, but I still felt like it wasn't enough for me. I didn't feel like I had lost enough weight, and I still didn't look like that ballerina that I wanted to look like. In addition to feeling like I hadn't lost enough weight, I felt weak and cold all of the time. My fingers and my toes and my lips would be purple a lot of the time, and I just couldn't get warm no matter how hot it was outside, even in the summer. And I was just not doing well. I was not feeling very good at all. I ended up being vegan for 3-ish years before I moved from Colorado to California to pursue dance. This was my first time living alone at 17 years old. I had control over the foods that I was gonna buy, and there wasn't a Planet Fitness nearby, so I signed up for the nearest Gold's Gym because that was what was close. And that's how I started getting into lifting weights and not just doing cardio all the time. I was in a city where nobody knew me, so I felt comfortable to do the weights and the exercises that I wanted to try that I felt like I would get judged for back home. And even though I wasn't 100% knowledgeable about what I was doing, I really enjoyed lifting weights and started to really get into it. This is when I decided that I didn't want to be vegan anymore because I felt it wasn't helping my strength in the gym or at dance. So as you can see, we're getting on the right track, but it still takes us a long time to get to where we are now. So after being vegan, I decided to go keto. So now we're also going in the wrong direction. So I went from an extremely high carb diet to a no carb diet. And doing this diet, I gained a lot of weight. During this year that I lived in California, I would go back from being keto to just restricting to other random fad diets. I tried everything all across the board. I was just frustrated. I didn't feel confident. I didn't like the way I looked, and I didn't feel good. I ended up having a hard time financially and mentally being away from home. So after a year, I moved back to Colorado and I started auditioning for dance companies at home. Eventually, I got offered a contract with a small dance company here in Colorado, which is essentially what you try your whole life for with dance, is to get a paid position dancing. That's what I wanted to do my whole life. So I was very excited about this opportunity. I found another Gold's Gym back home that I started going to with my same ex-boyfriend instead of going to Planet Fitness. This time, he was kind of helping me learn the ropes of weightlifting because I was more open to learning, and we both got super into weightlifting. Then one day when we were at the gym, I was unloading the leg press and I dropped a 45-pound weight right on my foot from about chest height. So I broke my foot in multiple places and I had to take a little bit of a break from dance. While my foot was broken, I took this as an opportunity to start training upper body and learn more about that. In 2019, I ended up getting a front desk job at that same Gold's Gym. I was surrounded by people who were super knowledgeable who worked at this gym, and at this point in my life, I just felt like a sponge and I was absorbing all of the information that I was getting. I started learning more about food, and then I started eating right about maintenance a little bit less because I was still a little bit scared of gaining weight. I was also getting excited about putting on muscle and gaining strength. So just as I'm getting onto the right path and had been working there for about a year, the gyms shut down because of COVID. As well as the gym shutting down, that dance company that I got offered a contract with also shut down. So I took this as kind of an opportunity to look at all of the mental, emotional, physical problems that dance has caused me. And with a heavy heart, I decided to take a step back from ballet for now. I wasn't quitting ballet, and I still occasionally revisit that part of my life, but it was just time for it to take a step back for now. And ballet held such a special place in my heart. Ballet was the first thing I ever fell in love with. It was just the universe was leading me down a different path now. Let me just say really quickly, I do not think everyone who is a ballerina or does ballet or everyone who is vegan has an eating disorder. I don't think that it's helpful to stereotype that entire group of people into people who have an eating disorder. This was just my experience, unfortunately. So when COVID hit and the gyms were shut down, I would just use the weights in my parents' basement and try to maintain most of the strength that I had gained. And I did lose some strength, but I was just super excited for the gyms to open back up. And as soon as the gyms opened back up, I went through a really bad breakup, which is kind of what a lot of people say when they are asked how they really got into weightlifting. So for about 2 weeks, I would try to go to the gym and I just couldn't get myself to finish a workout without being in tears. So after I gave myself some time, I really kicked things into full gear and I really tried to put on a lot of strength and put on a lot of muscle and just dove into fitness, and it became my life. I was pushing myself in the gym more than ever. I also decided I really wanted to repair my metabolism, and I had a different look in mind for myself. I didn't want to look like the ballerina anymore. I wanted to look strong and curvy. And so with those goals in mind, I decided to start my first bulk. So between lifting heavier and eating way more calories, I had put on a lot of muscle. I was super shocked because I was losing body fat, eating more calories than I ever had. My gym has one of those body fat scanners, and I did my body fat percentage before I really got into lifting and after, and my body weight stayed the same, but I had lost so much body fat and put on so much muscle, and I was really proud of that. Then I decided to get my CPT and work as a personal trainer at the gym. The people I was surrounding myself with as well now had changed, so I felt like the people I was around were bringing me up and encouraging me to get stronger. So that's kind of the story about how I got into weightlifting. I'm super happy to be able to say that since I recovered from my eating disorder and repaired my metabolism, my maintenance calories are higher than ever. And I'm able to cut and lose weight at a healthy amount of calories now. I won't share any numbers, but ever since my cut started, I've been able to eat more than 2,000 calories a day. And that's pretty much my whole fitness journey leading up to today. As far as competing goes, it was always kind of in the back of my mind because two of the trainers I really looked up to had asked me if I ever thought about competing. But I put it in the back of my mind as an idea for later because I wanted to fully heal from my eating disorder before it was something I considered more seriously. So after a year of maintaining a bulk and healing my metabolism, I decided to start looking for a coach. I found this guy and he just didn't feel quite right. I was about 8 months away from competing and he had me eating 1,200 calories, very, very low carbs, and the only meat I was allowed to have was tilapia. So something in my head just didn't feel right. A couple of years ago, I probably would have gone along with the idea of eating 1,200 calories and restricting, but with the knowledge that I had now, it just didn't feel right, so I decided to look for someone else. So my manager at Gold's recommended me the coach I have now, lifting as heavy as possible, trying to put on as much muscle as we could before I started cutting for stage. And now we're here, and I've just started my first real cut. And she had me eating much more food. I'm so grateful for all the people I've been able to meet at the gym and all of the information I've learned from everyone. I'm also super grateful for all of the opportunities I've been presented with since starting this fitness journey. And I'm just super excited to see where this journey takes me in the future and excited to be sharing it with everyone. So if you want to keep following me on this prep journey all the way up till show day, please subscribe. I post videos every Sunday. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram at Erin.fitness or at Erin_fitness. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you next Sunday. Bye.